In the original 2005 Resident Evil 4, this is one of my all-time favorite games. Recently I picked it up again and I played it a little bit. You see, very early on in the game, there happens something very interesting which I didn't see when I played it back in the day for the first time. I realized there's a massive plot hole most players probably just gloss over. After rescuing the president's daughter, Leon S. Kennedy faces an angry mob closing in. His brilliant plan? Run directly into a massive, unfamiliar enclosed Gothic fortress. Very good idea. Tactically, this is absolute suicide. Leon locked himself in a giant stone box and cut off his own lines of retreat. The only reason he makes this terrible decision is because the game requires it. There are a few ideas. I heard about the idea that he didn't know that this was also affiliated with the cult Los Illuminados, but that's kind of out there. It is very clear that Capcom needed a dramatic point of no return to lock players out of the village, change the visual assets and transition into the second part of the game. For 2 decades, players accepted this because Resident Evil 4 was a revolutionary masterpiece. It combines survival horror with what I would say is ridiculous B-movie camp. The game is very cheesy and the absurdity was part of its soul, proving that creative vision and vibe matter indefinitely more than rigid realistic logic. But the modern AAA gaming industry, well, has lost its sight of the truth. Today, if you think about it, the focus has shifted very much away from raw creativity and only towards flawless mechanical execution. Unreal Engine 5 usage is part of that. As I was playing this and thinking about that they actually made a remake for this, and I realized that I am very opinionated when it comes to that. The fact is, I strictly do not like most remakes, and to me everything points to a big problem in the AAA gaming sphere. I call it the bankruptcy of the remake pipeline. With that said, welcome back to OpenSplit, where we talk about game mechanics and similar stuff. And if you like this kind of content, smash that subscribe button right now and let's continue with a fun little comparison. Okay, I see it a little bit like this. Imagine an art museum decided one of their antique statues, well, it's getting faded and old. So they hire technical artists to recreate it from scratch using modern paints and modern tools. Then they throw the original work into the vault and replace it with the recreation inside the museum. They market it as the definitive and superior version. The world would obviously condemn this as a form of cultural vandalism. Yet this is exactly what the video game industry does every single year. These corporations treat historic, industry-defining games not as art, but as obsolete software packages that need to be updated. You can see that clearly in the Resident Evil 4 remake because it's not a simple remaster. Developers didn't just upscale textures, what they did is rebuild everything from scratch. Every 3D asset, character model and line of code required millions of dollars and thousands of hours of grueling human labor. If a studio expends that much capital and workforce power, why not create a new story? Why not invent a new world? Instead, what they did is something that I think is kind of horrible. They replaced a unique lightning in a bottle identity with a homogenized design template that looks exactly like every other prestige third-person action game on the market. And we also know why, because simply put, publishers are terrified of risk. You see, a remake comes with a built-in nostalgic audience, which is not me in this case, but I get it. Also for newer players, the original obviously is very clunky, but having a pre-existing blueprint also eliminates the most expensive part of production, which is, if you care about originality, the creative prototyping phase. The industry is actually cannibalizing its own history because it is too cowardly to actually fund the next generation of games. The assembly line production. I think the corporate rot goes much deeper than just financial cowardice. The remake trend is also being used to establish a global industry pipeline designed for cheap, interchangeable assembly line labor. Modern AAA development relies on standardized engines like Unreal Engine 5 or whatever the guys in Capcom use. to keep costs down. Mega publishers replace veteran designers with massive armies of junior developers, temporary contractors, and outsourced studios to mass-produce assets. To me, it seems very clear that publishers are using these remakes as a giant corporate training ground. They teach entry-level workers the mechanical how of game development, while giving them zero agency in the creative what. Eventually, we end up with a lot of people who know how to operate the machinery of the assembly line, but they are not taught how to write a compelling story, how to craft memorable dialogue, or to take any form of creative risk. They are trained to be compliance-driven technicians, and still, in the end, they think they can do a better job than the original, by changing little things here and there, which is just crazy. The Resident Evil 4 remake is the textbook example here. On a technical level, the execution is flawless, the gameplay obviously is much better now, but the creative elements are completely hollow. The writers are so delusional that they think making small adjustments to the dialogue or the sequence of events is a genuine improvement of the game, and I think this is clearly not the case. The crash of AAA gaming. This assembly line approach or philosophy, in my opinion, is very unsustainable. You cannot build a great original game using a workforce that has only ever been trained to replicate or replace existing blueprints. The hardest part of game development is the brutal, chaotic and creative process of iteration, basically finding the fun through trial and error. The original 2005 Resident Evil 4 was a masterpiece because it was born out of that specific chaotic process, going through multiple scrapped versions before its creator locked in his revolutionary vision, which also changed the entire gaming landscape thereafter. It was driven by individual creative madness and without the corporate consensus constantly breathing down his neck. When these studios eventually try to create something original but are only exclusively trained on remakes, when tasked with creating a brand new IP, they are bound to suffer from some form of creative paralysis. They don't know how to invent, they only know how to manufacture. I think we can already see where this is going. The results are technically breathtaking, hyper-realistic games that still eventually feel completely soulless. They are designed by software technicians who know exactly how to use the tools, but they have absolutely no idea what to say with them. By treating games as disposable software updates, corporate publishers are lowering the skill level of their entire workforce and try to replace human creativity with an industrial assembly line. In the end, prioritizing safe execution over bold risks is a strategic dead end. The AAA market is committing a tactical suicide from which it may never recover. Alright guys, these are just my 2 cents that came to mind when I was playing the original and in my opinion far superior version of the game. I am now very curious what you think about all of that and what kind of remakes you think did it exactly right. Please tell me your opinion down in the comments below. Now, I hope you enjoyed. If so, please subscribe to the channel, like and share the video. You can also check out my own survival roguelike on Steam right now. There might be even new content updates available already. And with that said, thanks again for coming by and let's meet again in the next one. Bye.